So we did talk about different properties. So the first property that we're going to talk about right here is the commutative property, right? The commutative, we got to move it. You've got to move it, right? So you can move the numbers or commute numbers in any order and the answer will remain the same. So if you look at this, 3 plus 5, well, if I were to ignore that, 3 plus 5 is 8. Well, that's the same thing as 5 plus 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. So therefore, we're going to use the commutative property of addition. 12 plus 10 is 22. That's the same as 10 plus 12. Notice, I did not change the numbers. I just rewrote them in a different order. So 1/2 plus 5/6 is the same thing as 5/6 plus 1/2. Okay, 5 plus -3 is the same as -3 plus 5. Notice, I didn't have to put parentheses around the -3 because I started with it. All right, the reason, this is a side tip, the reason why we put parentheses around the -3 is so we don't confuse the negative sign with the subtraction sign. Okay, all right, number 4, -2 and 5/10 plus -6 and 1/10 is the same as -6 and 1/10 plus -2 and 5/10. Now I'm going to put parentheses so I don't think that that negative sign is subtraction. Ooh, look at this one right here. So I could reorder these as 6 plus 5 plus 4. Okay, going to give me the same answer. Right? This one, 12 plus 10 plus 5. Well, I could go 5 plus 10 plus 12. Okay, and group those. Okay, so those are examples of the commutative property of addition. So multiplication, you can move or commute numbers, move in any order, and the answer will still be the same. So 4 times 2 is 8. Well, guess what 2 times 4 is? Still 8. 1/2 times 5/6 is the same as 5/6 times 1/2. No matter what you do, it's going to come out to be the same. 10 times -2 is the same as -2 times 10. -1/10 times -1 5/10 is the same as -1 5/10 times -1/10. Okay, 9 times 4 times 10 is the same as 10 times 4 times 9. Okay, so same numbers, different order. Okay, 1 times 10 times 8 is the same as 8 times 10 times 1. Okay, all right, so again, the commutative property of addition and multiplication allow us to move numbers around to make it simpler. All right, the associative property. The associative property is here so that so what that does is it allows us to make problems easier to solve. So what we can do is you can group the, trying to think the wording that they want here. So you can group the numbers and the answers will remain the same. Okay, all right. Sorry. So hold on just a minute. My bad. You can change the grouping of numbers and the answers will remain the same. So 3 plus 5 plus 7 is the same as 3 plus 5 plus 7. The only difference is that we added these first here, but we added those first. It doesn't matter. It's still going to give you the same answer. Okay, because 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8 plus 7 is still 15. So therefore, we keep the order the same, but we group these instead of those. We keep the order the same, but we group these first. All right, we keep the numbers the same, but we group these instead. Ooh, look at this one. The only reason is there's double because this is a negative and it's in parentheses. So we keep the order the same, but instead of grouping these, we group these. We keep the order the same. Oops, sorry. But we group these, okay? Whew, my paper is messy. All right, multiplication. You can change the groupings of numbers and the answers will remain the same. So I'm only going to do a couple of these. So this would be keep the order the same, but then we do that. Keep the order the same, but we group these instead. Keep the order the same, but we group these instead. All right. So that is just how we talk about the commutative property. What time is it? 9:51. Okay. All right. We're going to go through these two really fast. Okay. Identity property. So with the identity property, I'm going to TV timeout just a second. Hold on. Okay, so the identity property, here's what the identity property talks about. The additive identity, T-I-T-Y, is 0 because when you add it to any number, the value of the number does not change. It's the same. So 3 plus 0 is 3. 1 plus 0 is 1. 1/2 plus 0 is 1/2. -9 plus 0 is still -9. -2 7/10 plus 0 is -2 7/10. So if you look at this one, okay, for the sum to equal 0, add the additive inverse, okay, to this. So this is basically like adding the opposite. So -2 plus 2 equals 0. 8/9 plus the opposite, it's the additive inverse, is 0. -4 5/10 plus +4 5/10 is 0. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at multiplication. So the multiplicative identity is 1. So 3 times 1 is 3. 18 times 1 is 18. 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. -7 times 1 is -7. -9 3/10 times 1 is -9 3/10. Okay. So for the product, multiply by the multiplicative, inverse, also known as the reciprocal. Okay, now this is a big one right here. 8 right now is 8/1. The reciprocal, you just go bloop. Here you go, bloop. So you change the numerator with denominator, denominator is numerator. So the reciprocal of this would be 1/8. Because if you were to multiply these together, these cancel out. 1 times 1 is 1. So this would be 1/8. So the multiplicative inverse, which is the reciprocal, is 4/3. Okay, 7. The multiplicative inverse of this is a -6/5. And a negative, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, the last property that I want to talk to you guys about before we play our game is the distributive property. So the distributive property is used when trying to multiply a number by a group that contains addition or subtraction. Okay, so see this? So this is multiplication right here, but we have addition or subtraction inside there. So if you look at this, this would be 4 times 2 plus 4 times 7. This would be 3 times 2 minus 3 times 5. Now notice I'm not simplifying these all down, okay? I could make this 8 plus 28. I could make this 6 minus 15. I could. They're the same thing. This one would be negative 2 times 4 plus negative 2 times 5. This one would be negative 4 times 1/2 minus negative 4 times 10. And I could simplify that. Ooh, now we get into our variables. This would be 2 times x plus 2 times 10, which would be 2x plus 20. This would be 5 times a minus 5 times 9. This would be negative 10 times x plus negative 10 times 2. And this one could be negative 9 times a minus negative 9 times 2. Okay, so that is what the distributive property is all about. Okay, so now we're going to play a short little fast little quick little game.